The plans have changed. You may not know what those plans were, but I do, and I know that they changed. You see, I had a different video planned for today, but that video has been postponed to next time, and the one after that has been postponed to be the one after that, and this video, which wasn't going to exist at all, has been pushed to today. You got all that, honey? Good, because I tell a lie. This video was going to exist. Actually, that's a lie. Or no, it's not. I mean, it was going to exist, but it was going to be in a much different form. In that hour-long debacle discussing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I had a little nugget in there about talking about the game Akiba's Trip under the guise of audience participation, where I said if you commented that you wanted me to talk about the game, I would do so, knowing full well no one was going to comment. It was all part of my elaborate scheme. What I was going to do was, at the end of the year, when I did my big all-encompassing year-end video talking about everything in 2020 that I consumed, I was going to save my Akiba's Trip discussion for then. But then the plans changed. So what changed? Well, after literally a decade of using nothing but iMovie, I have graduated to a new editing software. And the reason for that is because my old MacBook graduated to the fucking graveyard. Not that the next few videos I had planned were particularly editing intense, but there's a glut of new features in front of me, and I didn't want to overwhelm myself to the point of burnout, so I decided I was going to switch things up a little bit and just kind of talk about a game for a little bit that didn't require any props or any sort of crazy edits. Not that I'm known for either of those things, but it's just a nice way for me to talk about a shitty game and also learn the basics of a new editing software. So, as I was nearing the end of my Xenoblade Chronicles 2 journey, I had been debating internally what I was going to play next. And for a while, the front runner had been BioShock Infinite, because I had played the other two BioShock games earlier in the year, and I didn't want to leave Infinite hanging. But I did. I did leave it hanging. Now, why would I do this? Well, I wanted to play something that I knew was shorter than BioShock Infinite. Not that Infinite is particularly long, but after playing a 130-hour-long game, I wanted to play something under 10, and Akiba's Trip was 9, so yeah. Also, I wanted to play a game I had never beaten before. Akiba's Trip never even made it past level 1. And the final reason is it was on the PS3. The PS3 was still hooked up to my TV. The Xbox One, where I have BioShock Infinite as part of the collection, was not. These are not good reasons, okay? The correct answer is still staring me right in the face. It wouldn't have even been that big of an inconvenience to just set up the Xbox One, but I didn't do that. And not for nothing, BioShock Infinite is a game that I already know I like. It's a game I already think is good. And after playing a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for, again, 130 hours, a game I didn't think was good and I didn't like, why on God's green earth would I spend any amount of time on a game that was likely terrible and a complete unknown like Akiba's Trip? I don't know the answer to that. I don't have that answer. Akiba's Trip, Undead and Undressed, is a sequel to a Japanese-only title, but you don't need to know anything about the original in order to play this. The only thing that you do need to know is that this is terrible. This game is part visual novel, harem game, part beat-em-up, and it doesn't handle either of those elements particularly well at all. The visual novel romance aspects are pretty standard fare. You play as male character, and male character happens to befriend a bunch of attractive women in Akihabara, the weeb capital of the world. And the girl's opinions of male character change throughout the game, starting from sheer indifference to wanting to crawl around inside him like a sleeping bag, just based on the amount of time he spends hanging out with them. And if you're curious as to what ending I got the childhood friend character Toko's ending, which I was okay with. I didn't think her design was that bad, her character wasn't obnoxious or awful in any way, just your standard childhood friend romance arc. All of the dateable women are either part of or eventually join a group called the Akiba Freedom Fighters. Essentially a herd of nerds that go around Akihabara and do stuff for people. They're like a neighborhood watch, but with way more anime titty. Eventually, the Freedom Fighters are put to the test when strange creatures start appearing in Akiba called synthesters. Synthesters are emotional vampires that drain people of their energy, like shitty family members or co-workers. Their only weakness is direct sunlight, and in order to save their city, male character, and whomever he's partnered with at the time, must fight back. But how do you defeat these immortal beings? Well, like I said, their weakness is direct sunlight, so you're going to use a bunch of weapons that attack either their heads, upper bodies, or lower bodies. Do this enough, you're going to damage their clothing to the point that you can just tear it right off of their bodies, exposing them fully to the sun, causing them to burst into flame. Alright, so let's ignore for just a second that these synthesters are walking around Akiba in t-shirts and booty shorts, thus skin fully exposed to the sun, and they're not wearing masks even though the CDC says. Alright, now hear me out on this. Like, the game categorizes the various clothing that you tear off of people, which, whoo boy, what a stat to track. I mean, look out fantasy football. Throughout my playthrough, one of the clothing types that I had apparently torn off the most, just through the act of playing the story and fighting the enemies that the game put in front of me, not seeking them out, I have to say this because the category that I had a lot of was labeled Lolita. Ugh. Yeah, that's not okay. All right, this isn't a Vladimir Nabokov novel here. Like, I'm not Humbert running around Akihabara. There's no nuance to this. There's not even, like, flimsy nuance a la Kill la Kill where there's like, oh, it's a metaphor, man, and nudity represents freedom, dude. Yeah, no. In Akiba's trip, nudity represents nudity, and nudity makes people horny, and that's why it's here. The mechanic to tear people's clothing off their bodies came first. The story to explain it away came second, possibly even further down the priority line. Funnily enough, the Thermian argument that tearing off people's clothing is how you defeat the monsters, therefore it's okay, not creepy, trust me. It doesn't even really work as an adequate defense of this game being anything less than insanely fucking creepy, because you don't just fight the monsters in this. And again, like I said, you can ignore the fact that they're just walking around in t-shirts and booty shorts. You can even ignore the fact that they're just like they just present as regular human beings, just regular young folk walking around enjoying their day. We can ignore all that. But not everybody you fight is a monster. Sometimes you fight regular people, and you defeat them in the same way. The only difference is, instead of spontaneously combusting, they're just humiliated in public. There's a part where I went to train with Toko. According to the ending I got, the love of my fucking life. We were on a nice little date going to the local dojo together. We were enjoying each other's company in spite of a citywide crisis happening all around us. We engaged in nice conversation, enjoyed the pleasant summer weather of Western Japan, until I started beating her over the head with a computer monitor until I could tear her bicycling shorts from her waist with my bare fucking hands. Can you feel the love tonight? Are you gonna just talk about the sexual content, or are you gonna talk about the gameplay? Why bother? This gameplay's like shit. I mean, the camera is atrocious. The targeting system barely works. I tried to do some side missions to make my character a little more powerful, but I gave up on the dream of doing any of them at all because they barely work. You'll have to respawn into parts of the map over and over again just to ensure that the person you need to interact with actually spawns on the map. It's just so many elements of this game are literally broken. It's to the point where I feel like this game was not developed by like a development studio. It's like a group of perverts got together, assembled about 15 lines of code, and then just called it a career. Besides, it's funnier to talk about the sexual content. I enjoy joking about being a prude, and I play that up a little bit, which is why I decided to specifically wear my Golden Boy shirt today, because I do want it to be known that I have no problem with sexual innuendo, and I don't mind when shows or games are about or involve or discuss romance or sex. In Golden Boy, shit, Kintaro Oi is a massive pervert, and that's a huge aspect of his character, but I fucking love that show. It's really well done and funny. Akiba's Trip is just about teenagers that sexually assault strangers until they burst into flame. I think it skews toward the nasty side, and it's exactly the type of thing that people scoff at when they make fun of anime fans or people who play games that come out of Japan. Suffice it to say, I hate this game. There was a point where I thought about getting the sequel, Akiba's Beat, so that I could have perhaps more insight and context into the franchise as a whole, but no. Fuck that game, and fuck this game too. So that's it for this video, and if you want to add some romance points to the Chris ending of your life, go to patreon.com/ChrisTheNerd92. There's all sorts of perks and rewards there. Unfortunately, none of them are rendered CG shots of me seductively eating ice cream or, like riding a bicycle with my whole ass just all the way out. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, sub to the channel. Helps out a lot, tricks the algorithm, which is what we're all really trying to do at the end of the day. My Twitter and Insta will be in the description. My books are going to be linked there as well. I write stuff, guys! So, until next time, I have been Chris, and thanks for playing along.